Okay, good evening, everybody. Uh, excuse me. Okay, Parshas Pinchas. I, as some of you know, that I sat shiva last week for my brother, and I want to thank those who knew about it, who were in touch with me. I didn't expect anyone really to know about it, and we should only celebrate Simchas together. But one of the things I had to do during shiva was I had cataract surgery scheduled, and I couldn't cancel it. Otherwise, I'd have to wait 3 months for the next surgery. So I don't have glasses on because I can see distances, but I can't read yet without readers. So the glasses are going to come on and off like some scholarly fellow giving a lecture. So that's not what's happening. It's just that I'm between two worlds right now. All right, I have three pieces here. Um, one from the Shemi Shmuel, another from Rav Yonas and David we had last week, and another one from my Sefer Kanfei Yonah. But the first two pieces are the Shemi Shmuel and Rav Yonason seem to dovetail a little bit together. So let's see what he says. Okay, the Shemi Shmuel. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. So we know Rashi comments that here we have Pinchas. We know what happened. It's between two parshiot. Yeah, last week he killed Zimri and Cosby for the terrible lewd act that the Nasi of Shevet Shimon did in front of Yisrael in public, a lewd sexual act with Cosby, princess from a non-Jewish world, and Pinchas killed him. Kanoim Poginbo. When someone does this, there's no psak din from Bezdin. Kanoim, a kanai, a genuine zealot who is working for HaKadosh Baruch Hu completely, is allowed to kill the people involved in that lewd act. So our parsha begins with the reward that Pinchas received, and it identifies Pinchas with three generations, which is not normal. Usually it's, when someone's called up to the Torah, when we make a Bisha Baruch for a man or a woman, we use two generations. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Uberashi, why did he go three generations? The Torah, Lefi Shahayu Shvat Hashvatim Mivazinoto, because the tribes were insulting and denigrating Pinchas. Hariitem ben Puti said, did you see this? Ben Puti. What's Ben Puti? He's talking about Yitro. He comes from Yitro on one side, right? And on the distaff side, he comes from Yitro. So Yitro, Shapitem Aviam Imo Agalim Lavodazara, his mother's, the father, his maternal grandfather, fattened cows for idol worship. V'horag Nasi Shevet Yisrael, and he killed the president, the leader of a tribe of Israel. So since that was done, Lefichach ba kosu v'yachso, immediately the Torah comes to give his pedigree, Achar Aaron, after Aaron, Dafka, because Aaron, we know, was Oiv Shalom V'rodev Shalom. Lahavin mazeh hoil. So now he's asking a question, right? What does that really help? How does that solve them? How does that take away their taina, their complaints, their criticism, their put down of Pinchas, that he came from an idol worshipping family originally, right? Mazehoil, Shiachso Acharar, that they gave his pedigree for. Hello, Gam Yisrael, lo itilu bo safek lo mar nenu ben Aaron. Everybody knew he was from Aaron. Yet they still dumped on him, right? That he came from idol worship. They found something that they felt was critical from his distaff side, his mother's side. And that's not going to help what his father's yichus was from his father. The Torah would tell us that he came after his father. So they knew it already, right? Because the yichus goes after the father. So they still insulted him because of his maternal yichus. And the yichus of his father is not going to save him. So what's the big deal? The yichus of his father is not going to save him. You have such a situation as a problem, and they knew about it. So what was that? What was the utility of what Rashi is saying? In defense of what they said, they still would say the same thing, even though they know where he comes from, right? So he answers. I want to suggest an answer. Dine kvod kedushas avi. My father, the Ebenezer, Dayak lo mishas Nazir, he wants to say a chiddush from a Gemara in Nazir. The Gemara in Nazir says, the hishvus nut zimri nut tamar. The Gemara in Nazir compares, or I should say contrasts, the promiscuous affair, so to speak, quote unquote, of Tamar, and that of Zimri, the prince of Shimon. That what the Gemara says is that Tamar acted l'shem shamayim. She knew that there was going to come, David Melech Yisrael was going to come from this union. There was no yivum yet, in the sense that we have the mitzvah today of yivum, but she took it upon herself to perform a kind of yivum marriage with her father. Right? Remember, this is pre-Torah, but the idea was that she knew that David Melech Yisrael would come from her and from him. But Zimri, so but he wants to say, the Ebenezer, the Gam Zimri l'shem shemayim nitkaven. Somehow there was some kind of shem shemayim, some kind of pure intent on the part of Shimon, whatever that is. He doesn't explain. Kemo Tamar, just like Tamar. Obviously, Shimon, the prince of this was not a slouch, the prince of Shevet Shimon. He obviously, the Ebenezer wants to suggest, had certain kavana of what he wanted to accomplish through this marriage, this relationship between himself and a princess from the Umot HaOlam. V'haita avera lishma. So it was an avera lishma, right? Ella, here's the problem. Shavera lishma, tzricha liot lishma betachlit. Avera lishma has to be 100%. If you do an avera for the right reasons, it has to be 100% pure. B'li iruv kavanat stadit kolshu. There can't be any ulterior motive. In other words, there's some merit to doing an avera lishma, but in theory, it's almost impossible. Now, in the past, we have given an example. I once quoted Rav Tzadok HaKohen. He said that the greatest mitzvah is a mitzvah that it comes out of an avera. For example, Yivum, right? That to marry a sister-in-law, which is really not allowed except under these circumstances, or Lashon Hara, right? Let's say someone comes to you and wants to know information for a business partner. He wants to be a partner with such a fellow, or a shidduch, a shidduch between a young man and a young woman. And you know something that really you should say, stay away from this fellow. Don't go into business with him. This family is not for you in terms of a shidduch. So you are allowed to speak about that fellow and tell the other potential business partner not to go into the deal. However, the Chavetz Chaim lays down 9 conditions on how you can do it and why you can do it, right? So it shouldn't be, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and speak a little Lashon Hara. It doesn't work that way, right? So it's almost impossible, right? Even though there's some merit to it, it's almost impossible to really do it properly, right? So Vahari, the rabbis say, afilu chasid shebechasidim, even the most pious individual, efshar shelo yelo tzad echad me'avon. It's highly unlikely that there won't be a little bit mixed in of a negative attitude of why he's doing it. The avera. Or the mitzvah for an avera, the avera for a mitzvah. Im kain lo haya efshar. So it's really not possible. Shetieh lishma betachlit. It can't be 100% l'shem shemayim. Al-kain nilkad bepach rachman al-zon, and therefore the person is going to be caught up in the web of sin. That's what his father says, right? Ad kan, this is the Torah of my father. Ubezeh pirashnu divrei Yerushalmi Sanhedrin. With that, I want to explain the comment of the rabbis in the Gemara Yerushalmi Sanhedrin. Shebikshu lindoto lepinchas. They wanted to put Pinchas into nidui. They didn't want to kill Pinchas. They wanted to put him into cherem, that he should be excluded from Klal Yisrael. They should put him in cherem. He's not part of the community, right? Ella, what happened? They didn't do it. Shekafz alav ruach hakodesh, va'amralo, the Shechina told them, Haita lo ulazaro acharav, right, that his Pinchas and his progeny are going to be holy people. You cannot touch Pinchas. You cannot put him into cherem. You can't put him into jail, so to speak, or outside of the community, right? So here's his next question. L'chura bilti move on. I don't understand this. Why would they want to do that? Nidu izeh ma avidite. What would this cherem that they would put him in, what would it accomplish? However you look at it, if they knew the din, the boel aramis, the kanoim pogim bo, if they knew the din that if someone performs this terrible lewd act, that a true kanoi, a true zealot, is allowed to kill him, mitzvah rabbah, so he did a mitzvah, right? V'lama yitchayev nidui, why should he be put into cherem? V'lo yadu, right? If they didn't know the din, right? They should have taken him to Bezdin, and Pinchas should have been killed. He should have been taken to court and killed for murdering Zimri, right? Ish ha'over avera she'ein bo misas Bezdin, someone who transgresses a din which is not capital punishment, ubo achar v'horgo, and someone comes and kills him, and he's chayav alav. He's chayav. You have to take him to court, right? So if Zimri didn't do anything which required the death penalty, why should we should take him to court? Pinchas should be killed. So either they knew the din, and what he did was a mitzvah, or they didn't know the din, so let's take him to court. You can't say that he killed him because he was over an avera. So I'm sorry, I missed a line. The zev vadei bebezdin shel mata. Oh, so he says like this. Hapirushu. Let me explain. The zev vadei bebeitin shel mata. When you're dealing with a human court, our beit din, the Jewish law that we have, ein mashkichin ala kavana el almais. We don't look at kavana. We look at the action. A person is judged for what he did. Right? A person can say, I had every good intention to do it, but you killed somebody, right? You killed somebody, right? That's how Bezdin looks at it here. If someone transgresses something that is a capital punishment, right? Even though he meant, the road to, is paved with good intention. Right? So if it was l'shem shemayim, ein mashkichin al zeh umamitin oto. We don't care. Ein mashkichin al zeh. We kill him, right? No matter what his intentions were. He says, for example, the Makoshesh Eitzim, who was Mechal Shabbos, right? Shaita kavanato l'shem shemayim. His kavanah was l'shem shemayim. He wanted to show people how important Shabbos was, whatever the Rishonim say. Umikol makom. But he was killed. Forget about what his kavanah was, right? He was Mechal Shabbos, which is an Isser of Chiyuv Misa, the death penalty, right? Incidentally, the only person in the history of the Jewish people that was killed for Chil Shabbos, even though it says Skila, it says the death penalty was this person, the Makoshes Eitzim, right? Why then does the Torah give such a punishment? So Rav Shamshon Hirsch says that the punishment fits the crime. It's for us to understand the severity of what we're dealing with in the Torah. There are various levels of mitzvahs, various levels of averas. But this gives us an idea of the severity of the mitzvah, the severity of the avera. That's why it's a death penalty. Okay, in any case. If the avera that the person does not have a capital punishment, ela shekanoim pogimbo, but what you do is only a kanai can kill him. So it's an exceptional. This is a din min hashamayim. This is not a human court anymore. Human court, we don't look at kavanah, right? You killed somebody, you have to go to Beit Din, right? But if it's from the terrestrial court, that's something else. Kanoim pogimbo, that a kanoi can kill him. This is not something that we can paskin. This has to be from the heavenly court, right? And there, Asfar notenet lomar, then you could say shemeyachar shekavanato hayta l'shem shemayim, since for whatever reason Zimri meant l'shem shemayim, juvein kan kanoyim, right? So what are you going to do? You can't kill him. You have to look at his kavanah. You have to know what his kavanah was. You can't just go out and take a sword and kill him. V'hinei hakol hayu yodim b'Zimri shekavanato l'shem shemayim. Everybody knew that Shimon had, that Zimri had serious and pure intentions. That's what he wants to say. Whatever those intentions were, we don't know. We don't know. But that was his intention. Also to create a lineage from some monarchy, right? Okay. Shavtu she'ein kan din kanoim pogimbo. So you can't say this is a din of kanoim pogimbo. V'yodim hayu bifneihem shegam hu yoda bezimri shahayta kavanat l'shem shemayim. And they concluded that Pinchas also know he meant l'shem shemayim, right? So here we go. It's l'shem shemayim. He meant l'shem shemayim. We can't kill him. Al kain rinenu alav lama hargo. Why did you kill him? Umikol makom. That being said, efshar hayu laduna bebeitin kirotzeach. They cannot take him to court and have him killed by Bezdin for murder. Shebeitin ein mashgichen ala kavanah. Bezdin does not look at the intention; they look at the act. El ala ma'isa. Ve'ein mashgichen im yoda Pinchas shahayta kavanah shel Zimri l'shem shemayim olo. And they didn't pay attention whether Pinchas meant l'shem shemayim or he didn't mean l'shem shemayim. Al korcha chayvu rak nidu. So they said we have to excommunicate him. That's all we can do. We'll excommunicate him. We cannot kill him. We cannot kill him because it's not a sin that is in Beis Din Shalmata, right? So we'll put him in Cherem. Ela shekofza alav ruach hakodesh. Then the Shechina came, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came, and said that no, he's a holy person. His children are holy. No, he can't even go into Cherem. Pinchas did the right thing. Now, I skipped a lot of stuff here, but let's go to the last line on the page, and we'll go over the page. Now we understand, he says. Lefi zeh yesh lefaresh. Now we can understand another question. Ha dahayu hashvatim mivazinoto. That they insulted him. They put him down. Bima shepitem avi imo agalim lavodah zarah. Remember what they said? This Pinchas, who does he think he is? The chutzpah, what he did, that he killed Shimon, he killed a Nasi from Shimon, the prince of Shevet Shimon, and who is he? His grandfather worshipped idols. He fattened idols, which is a very strange concept. Didn't say it came from Avodah Zarah. He came from people who fattened animals for Avodah Zarah. Over the page. Below the pshitut shaya oved avodah zarah shemamtinin aleh. It didn't say it comes from idol worshippers, right? What does that mean? What is that all about? Shezeh gana yoter mipitum, which to be if he's an idol worshiper, isn't that worse than someone who fattens the animal for idol worship? Hainu shayu omri. What they said is shepinchas lo hishkiach bezimri ela bechitzoniyut. Pinchas he ignored the kavanah. He ignored the kavanah. In other words, the fact that this was not clear cut to go to Beis Din, where only what Zimri did is dealt with, but the fact that it was a halacha of kanoim pogimbo, which is from a heavenly court, You have to look at the kavana. You have to look at what was the case? What really did he have in mind, Zimri, right? And lo ishgiach Zimri elo b'chitzoniyat. Lo ishgiach, Zimri only looked at Zimri, the externality, right? Like fattening the cow, right? If we would have examined the internal act of Zimri, shekavanato hayta l'shem shamayim, which was somehow l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, lo hayorgi, would not have killed it. V'zeh gorem apakam mibeit avi imo shepitem agalim la'avodah zarah. That's why they criticized him. Here's this guy Pinchas who only looks at the externalities, that we should make a beautiful fat sacrifice for the idol, right? Shekol inyanam b'chitzuniyot kanal, that the whole kavanah of these people is on chitzoniyot, on superficiality, right? Not the internal message, but just the superficial, what the animal looks like, right? Al kain nitava nami Pinchas. So now shahaya nimshach achar shitchiyut v'chitzoniyut ha'inyan. Therefore, they were critical of Pinchas, putting him down, that he was a superficial person. He only looked at the superficial, the external, right? He didn't look in the depth of a situation. Now we understand, he says, Lo lezeh bo katuv v'yachzo achar Aaron. That's why the Torah comes and gives a 3-generational appellation to Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Why Aaron? Why Aaron? Ki Isa b'Maral, he quotes the Maral, says this is a brilliant idea. Aaron represented pnimiyut. Aaron represented looking at the kernel, looking at the microchip, looking at the intention, looking internally at the act, not just externally what a person did, not judging a person, but try to understand the circumstance, right? How is that? How does the Maral say this? Beautiful with Lashon Kodesh. Aharon, the word Aaron, Aleph Hey Reish Nun. Hayakol inyano pnimiyut. The whole name of Aaron, every letter of his name represents internality. I'll show you how. V'chein morot osiot shmo. That was Aaron. Ohev Shalom, Rodev Shalom. You can't be an Ohev Shalom and Rodev Shalom if you're just looking at externalities. You have to go to the other person, maybe look at their circumstances, right? Al tadin et chavero ad shetagia limkomo. Never judge a person until you get to their point, right? How can I get to their position? You can't. You can't. It's impossible. So therefore, the only license we have is to love another Jew, not to judge another Jew, right? You don't know the circumstances behind why that person is doing what they're doing, right? But listen to what he says, the brilliance of Chachma of Lashon Kodesh. V'chein marot otiot shmo. Hey, the letter Hey of Aaron, hi ha'ot ha'emtzait shel yichidot. It's the middle letter of units, from 1 to 10. From 1 to 10, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. Hey is the pnimiyut. It's the midpoint. It's the internality of units. Reish, I am Tzayit Shel Hameot. You take the hundreds, right? So Reish is the middle of hundreds, right? Nun, the Nun Shel Asiriot. It's the middle letter of tens, 50, right? Ve'alef, hi mora al hanekuda pnimiyit sheben. The Aleph, the one is the essence. The one, like Kodesh Baruch Hu is echad miyuchad, that everything has its kernel, its microchip is echad, is the one, the main point. That's Aaron. Now, just with Lashon HaKodesh, you see it. We know in his lifestyle from what he did, Aaron, right? He didn't just look at the externalities. Uba katuv lomar. So now the Torah is coming to tell us Sha'adarabah. It's challenging. Right, it's not. That's answering his original question. Who cares what his father came for? What his father's lineage was? They were criticizing him about his maternal side, right? No, this is the response. They were criticizing him that he was a superficial person, not a serious person, right? He came from people who fattened idols, who were only concerned with the materialistic, the superficial. No. That Pinchas is just the opposite. He was betachlis. the thinking person who looks inside. He looked at the inside of the inside of the inside of what Zimri did. Even though it was l'shem shemayim. מכל מקום, פנימיות שבפנימיות היצד אחד טוב. מצד זה קנויים פוגעים בו. So, still, קנויים פוגעים בו. Right? It was not a earthly din. Finally, he says, ולפי האמור, according to this, יש לומר ששכרו מאים לעניינו. His reward was fitting for the crime, so to speak. Crime, I put in quotation marks for what he did. Because Al pi ma shekasav hamaral, based on the maral de banim, heim pnimiyut ha'adam. Children are the internal part of a human being. The essence of a mother and a father is their child, who they bring into this world, right? That's the maral, which requires a little bit more explanation, which we're not going to go into, but I think we can understand that maybe on a bit of a superficial level, that the next generation is sort of, what we create from our relationships. The pasuk says that he was given kahuna for his generation after him. Kasher hu pnimiyut, because the generation after him is the internal person, the real person is coming out from the mother, from the father. Pinchas nami shelo hishgiach el pnimiyut, since Pinchas only looked at the pnimiyut, shebe pnimiyut, the inner of the inner, Inyan Zimri v'alzeh masar nafsho, and that's what he was ready to sacrifice life and soul for. Al kain hikiyas charo gam kain lazaro achar. So his reward was also that the kahuna would go to his children after him. Okay, now let's see the Meirat Einayim, Rav Yonas and David, and see what he does with this episode. Takes it in a little bit of a different spin, but really dovetails with what we have here from the Shem Mishmuel. Rashi, he quotes Rashi B'tchilat HaParsha. Hevi Tainus Klal Yisrael brings the argument of the Jewish people. Al Pinchas v'zel Lashono. This is what Rashi says. Lafi shahayu hashvatim, the Shvatim, the tribes, mivazinoto. They insulted him. Ve'omrim, and they said, Ru'u keep ben puti zeh. Look at the son of this idol worshiper, the grandson of this idol worshipper is Puti. What do they call it? Puti Shepitem. He fattened Avi Imo, his grandfather, Agalim Lavod Zara, calves for idol worship. V'harag Nasi Shevet Yisrael. This is the one who killed. He killed the prince of a tribe of Israel. Therefore, Rashi continues. The Torah is miyachesim, gives his pedigree. Achar Aaron. Okay, he quotes the Rashi too. Now he wants to ask some other questions on this. V'yesh la'ayin. I want to look into this Rashi a little bit. Michlal ma hayta tanatam. What was their taina against Pinchas? Umali sha'avi imo pitem agal lavor. Who cares what his father did? That's a little bit of a different. Who cares what his grandfather did? Right? You're not supposed to look at, right? Let's say a Baal Tshuva, right? The Rambam Paschal Halacha, it is usher. It is forbidden to say to somebody who's a Baal Tshuva, you know who he is, you know where he really comes from. There's a shiloh of being over an Isser D'Oraisa of Avat Yisrael, of loving another Jew. So who cares what his grandfather did? Although Im Nahag B'Tzedek, if he did the right thing, Lo Ichpat Lan Yechuso. What? Who cares what he did, right? Shmai and Avtalyon were part of the Masorah of Klal Yisrael. They were Gerid, they were B'nai Gerid, right? According to some, they themselves actually were Gerim themselves, right? So if he did righteousness, who cares what his yichus was? Yichus is not what's important here. Gam yesh l'daktek. Second question. Lama koran kan b'shem shvatim. Strange statement, right? Lefi shahayu hashvatim mevazinoto. B'nai Yisrael was mevazeh. What do you mean the tribes were mevazeh? The tribes, that's Am Yisrael. Why is the loshon of shvatim used? Interesting question, right? V'lo stam Yisrael, not simply Yisrael were mevazeh him, put him down. Oshara or Ta'orim or anything else, the people, Ha'am, Yisrael, right? Why Shvatim, right? Okay, so let's see where he goes with this. First question, who cares about his yichus? What business does it have to do if he did the right thing? And secondly, why is the emphasis on the fact that the Shvatim were the ones who were mevazeh? Okay. Lefi Amar, according to what we said, Yesh Levaer Tanatam. Now we can understand a little bit they're complete. The mikivan shemidat hakina, the midah of kina. I'm just turning this off. The midah of let's get back to this. I'm sorry, the phone rang. Let me just make sure it's off. Okay, sorry about that. The midah of kina zealotry. Now we're talking about kina de kedusha, to be a true zealot l'shem shamayim, right? I don't know that we have such people today, right? A zealot l'shem shamayim, someone who throws stones at someone who's driving a car on Shabbos. I wouldn't call him a zealot l'shem shamayim. I've often pointed out, someone gets a stone thrown at their car and the window smashed. I never heard of a husband turning to a wife or the wife turning to the husband and say, it's about time we started to think about keeping Shabbat, right? That doesn't work that way. We know, right? We're talking about a kanai de kedusha, right? It's a very high level. Right? He calls the mikivan shemidat hakina ha'amitit, true zealotry, ikoach hanefesh. This comes from the neshama. Has to come from a very pure person. She kolkach tahor v'kadosh. It is totally pure and holy. Can't get to this level. Person comes from his yichus. Maybe yichus has to be taken into consideration here. Person can't be, and it's impossible. They felt that someone could be a kanoi if he comes from over the avodah zarah. This was their conclusion. If that was his yichus, al-kain shelo haya kavanato tahora legamri, then the if this is where he comes from, al-kain shelo haya kavanato tahora legamri. His kavana was not pure. Uma'urav b'maisav gam k'tzat shelo lishman. Obviously, he really wasn't a serious guy, right? He had his own agenda, functioning his own agenda. Pinchas, he had whatever it was. That's what they tell. Therefore, the pasuk comes. V'yichaso ala Aaron and makes his pedigree from Aaron. Lomar, to say shenafsho zacha. Forget about the other side. Shenafsho zacha, shenafsho zacha, pure, uTORAH, legamri, completely, b'maisazeh. He is pure in what he did. Ulechein nakat Rashi, therefore Rashi's dafka atoar shvatim, and that's why it says shvatim. The hashvatim, a kesher ben ha'avot lahabanim. When you say shevet, you're talking about fathers, children, mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, right? Hashvatim is the kesher between the parents and the children. V'darkam holech b'meshech hadorot me'av leben. And it comes from parent to child. There's a continuum, right? V'hu apasuk shemevi Rashi. That's why the Rashi brings a pasuk shiftei ka edut liYisrael. The shvatim of God are the testimony of the Jewish people, the purity of the Jewish people. Shakodesh Baruch Hu me'id al tarat yichus hashvatim dafka. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives testimony on the purity of the shvatim, our yichus. Umemela Kisheta anu Yisrael al ma'asav shel Pinchas, when the Jewish people complained about, challenged Pinchas, questioned him, right, his sincerity, Koran Rashi b'shem shvatim, because they were coming. We are shvatim, from parent to child, from mother to child, from father to child, and you abused that. You don't have that kind of a yichus of shevet, and you took the prince of a shevet, right? Right? So how could you do such a thing? That's why they're called shvatim, right? That's what's going on here. V'yesh levaer. We have to explain lamed dafka b'shem yud kei. Why the yud and the hey name of God, the half name of God is used here. Rashi calls the shiftei ka, right? Hu Hashem hameid al yichus anshes. Why is that the name that defends the yichus, the pedigree, the pure pedigree of the Jewish people? Kihare kativ. At the end of Parshat B'Shalach, we know by Amalek, right? We have to destroy Amalek. Ki yad al keiska. that their hand is on the throne of God, but only the half of the name of God. Upirisham Rashi explains there, She'ein Hashem Shalem ad achrit hayamim. God's name is not complete. It's not the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey until achrit hayamim, until the end of days, until we destroy Amalek. Umavur is from this Shehashem Hazeh Hu Hamitgalel Lanu. This name of Yud and Hey, V'Lama Hamahalech Itanu Meshech Kol Orach HaGalut Ad Achrit Hayamim. This is the name that we carry with of God until throughout the trials and tribulations of Galus, of the diaspora, until Mashiach comes. Umemela, therefore, Hashem Hazeh Me'id al Hemshech Hadorot B'Tahara. It relates to the continuum of the Jewish people in purity. This is the essence of the Jewish people, that we continue in purity, mitchila v'ad sof, right? And that's why the Shvatim were called the Shvatim, because they challenged him with their platinum credit card of being a Shevet, right? And you don't have that, Pinchas. What are you doing, right? Od yesh levayer. We can say one more thing. Lefi dvareinu, according to what we're saying. Mashakos of Rashi al Apostle v'shem ish Yisrael hamukah Zimri ben Salu. They gave the name of the Ish Yisrael hamukah Zimri ben Salu. V'zeh loshem b'makom sheyicha v'zeh lomar, to teach us b'makom sheyiches et hatzadik l'shvach. He was given a pedigree l'shvach, praise. Yiches et harasha l'ganai. Also, the Rasha is also given a right. Ish Yisrael hamukah Zimri ben Salu. Right, his name was Zimri ben Salu. Right. We give his bad yichus also as harasha l'ganai. Ve'ena muvan. Why? V'ken kachem mikol makom mehait tzarich liyaches kanet harasha l'ganai. Why do we have to give the Rasha his pedigree also? Avol lemor shehakatuv kan here at Toar yichuso shel Pinchas. It gave Pinchas's pedigree. Shedavuk b'shorish kedushat Yisrael. Kan hi makom gam l'rachek et harasha mitoch hashorish hazeh. So we want to also throw in the Rasha. Also we should show that yichus, bad yichus, also goes with a Rasha. Okay, I don't know if we're going to have time for the concluding piece. Maybe we do. I think we do. We do have a little time. This is from my Hebrew Sefer Kanfei Yonah, and L'dmuto shel Talmud. What is the essence of a true Talmud, a true student? So we have in the Parsha Pinchas, Yehoshua taking over for Moshe Rabbeinu. V'natata mehodcha alav, and you should play. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him to place his glory on Yehoshua. Laman yishmu kol adat b'nei Yisrael, that b'nei Yisrael will listen to him. Mehodcha, the pasuk says, place on him from your glory. V'lo kol hodcha, but not all of your glory, right? No, you can't do that. V'lo kol hodcha. We see from this Pnei Moshe Kechama, Pnei Yeshua Kilevana. That's Rashi. Pnei Moshe was like the sun, and Yeshua was like the moon, right? So the Gemara in Maseches Bava Basra brings this Rashi and says to add something. Vinatata mehod kalav, you should give from your glory on him. V'lo kol hodcha, not all of your glory. Zikenim shebaoto hador amru. The elders of that generation said, Pnei Moshe kipnei achama. The face of Moshe was like the face of light of the sun. Pnei Yeshua kipnei levana. And the face of Yeshua was like the moon. Oy la la ota busha. Oy la la ota klima. What a tragedy. It's Gemara in Baba Basra. If those who are learning Daf Yomi, you will get to it eventually. Tomorrow you're starting a new chapter, right? Very important chapter in a very important parak in Baba Basra. In fact, in yeshivas, when they learn Baba Basra, they start with that parak, which you're going to start with tomorrow. In any case, what was the tragedy here? What are they referring to? We know that when Moshe died, hundreds of halachas were lost, and they had to reclaim them through their own research, right? So what are we talking about here? So he says something beautiful here. He says, I'm going to quote from Baruch. Povarsky. Bepashtu divrei Gemara mavatim et hefresh hamalot. This Gemara is emphasizing the difference between the Milas Kabir Sheben Yoshua Moshe Rabbeinu, between the good qualities, the greatness of Yoshua and the greatness of Moshe. Hefresh mavchina Misuyemet nira sheyesh bo mishum ganai b'yachas leYoshua. It seems that there's a downfall here, kind of a criticism of Yoshua. Moshe's the sun, Yoshua is the moon, right? So now, Amnam Hagon Baruch Povarsky Mivar, he explains Shadimu Izez, was the Ponovich Rosh Hashiva. V'dimu Izeh Mivateh Gam et Ma'alato Shel Yoshua. Talmido. No, it's also emphasizing the greatness of Yoshua, right? Talmud Anem, the faithful student, Shel Moshe Rabbeinu. Rayon ze bo levate shekeshem shekol orah shel halavana eno magia mimenu. The whole light of the moon, where does it come from? El nova mikach shehalavana machzira et orah shel hashemesh. It's the reflection of the sun. Kach gam torato v'hanagato hayishit shel Yoshua ben Nun. Yoshua also was a carbon copy in a very holy way, which is the proper way for a student to be. Shahat Torah me'ida alav shalom mashme olo shel Moshe. He never left the Beis Medrash of Moshe Rabbeinu, the tent of Moshe. Navu kulam mehashpato shel Rabbo Hagadol. He got everything from his Rebbe, Moshe Rabbeinu, alav shalom. V'kach hivaha Yoshua mofet v'semel lidmuto shel Talmid Anemon. He was actually the ideal student. Now, I want to close with this, a little bit of a different approach to that by Rav Soloveitchik. Rayon Dome, well, a very similar idea, lidei bitui ka'asher mevorchin tinuk bevris mila. What do you say at the bracha of a tinuk? At a bris mila. What's the bracha? Zeh hakatan gadol yeh. This katan will become great, should become great. He should become big, right? What are we talking about? The little baby here should become 6 feet tall? Is that what we're referring to? No. Zeh katan gadol yeh. L'chura nira sha'anu mevorchim and hayeled b'masha kimat muvan me'elav, which seems to be self-understood. Shu yizkeh yom echad li'asot la'adam gadol. He should become a great person. Amnam Hagon Rabbi Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik Matzia Pirush Acher Mekori Levrachas. He says something very beautiful, majestic. Umevi Mesoret B'Shem Hagon Mivilna. We have a tradition from the Gaon of Vilna. Levia im Viritzono Lahavin Heitev Munach Mesuyam B'Torah Aleinu Lechapes Tchila et Askaro Marishon B'Torah. If you want to know the meaning of a word, you have to search out the first time that word is used in the Torah. If you see the first time that the word is used and understand what it means, that is the essence of the word itself. So where's the first time you have katan and gadol, and where's the first time you have katan and gadol contrasted or compared with each other? With this idea in mind, apam harishona shebo muskarim hamunachim katan vegadol. The first time that you have katan and gadol in the Torah, He biyachas lebriat hashemesh v'yareach, is the creation of the sun and the moon. Shem muchana hashemesh ma'or hagadol. The sun is called the ma'or hagadol, the great light, the ma'or hagadol. V'ilu hayareach mitoar kimor is called the ma'or hakatan, the small light. What does that mean? Alpi. So here he says something similar to what Povarsky said, but listen, Al Pizeh Yesh Lomar Shekavanat HaBracha. What's the real kavanah you give to this child at the bris? He levatei et ha'uvda sheke'eit hayelad nakat shel v'nenu tali kula be'acherim. The moon's light comes from the sun, right? The whole light of the moon comes from the sun. The sun is the mashpia. The sun is giving over. The moon is mushpa, is the student. It's receiving, right? B'doma l'lavana. Sha'ora eino nova mimenu. The sun, the moon's light doesn't come from himself. He's the mushpa. The sun is the mashpia. Elehi pashut machziret ha'or shehi mekabel min hashemesh, but it's giving back the light that it gets from the sun. Anu mevorchim et hayelet. We give a bracha to this boy. Shebevo hayom, when the day will come, yizke lehasot mikatan legadol, that he will become. Right now, the sun is under the influence of the moon is under the influence of the sun. The child is under the influence of his parents. and his teachers, right? But one day he will become an influencer. A gadol is an influencer. A katan is one who receives the influence. Kolomar, me'adam mushpa, from someone who is being influenced, is receiving. Hatalui b'acherim, who's dependent upon others. La'adam mashpia, that he should become a giver, an influencer. Lahavi toelet l'zulato, to give over something to someone else. Okay? Moshe and Aaron. Not a put down at all. A prayer for that he should become a great leader like his Rebbe Moshe. Okay, thank you all. Have a good evening. And
thank you very much.
Pleasure.